Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on traditional territory of many nations. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of the Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within them. We recognize First Nations, Métis, Inuit, who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for Indigenous peoples who first lived and currently live on this land where we all rise together. Please remain standing for a moment of reflection from our clerk, Doug Irvin.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others, so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Attendance, we all are here today. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof on the agenda. Seeing none. First, we have a public meeting, proposed amendment to the Development Charges Bylaw pursuant to Section 12 of the Development Charge Act of 1997 as amended. Notice of public meeting now in session. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak about the Belleville 25 Development Charges Update Study, May 14, 2025? Would you please state your name for record and make your presentation or your thing to the report?
Will do. Good afternoon, Your Worship. My name is Byron Tan. I'm a manager with Watson and Associates, and I'm here representing my colleague Peter Simcisco for the Development Charge Background Study Update Amendment. Okay. So with that being said, we have provided this is a mandatory public meeting under the Development Charges Act, and it is an interim update, administrative update more so, in order to address one of your exemptions with respect to non-residential developments. So I do have a bit of a presentation here, preview and a summary for those of you that have not seen development charges since your last iteration. But I do recognize that you are currently undertaking your development charge background study for the municipal-wide bylaw, and that process should be completed by the end of this year. So this process and what I'm presenting today is really more of that administrative update to remove the industrial exemption. So with that being said, I do have a few slides here with respect to, first off, what are development charges? And just as a reminder for members of council, public, and staff, development charges, they're not new. They are a revenue tool provided by the province of Ontario for municipalities to be able to undertake development charge bylaws so that you can recover for growth-related developments from residential and non-residential components. And it is only for capital-related costs with respect to new infrastructure. And as I mentioned, municipalities, you're empowered via the Development Charges Act. But keep in mind that DCs, again, they're not new. They were, in its previous life, referred to as lot levies under the Planning Act. So it's just transitioned to the Development Charges Act as of today. As I mentioned, today is a mandatory public meeting as required by the Development Charges Act. And we have met the appropriate timelines where we have released the background study that identifies the required or proposed amendments to your current development charge bylaw, and it will be in place on your website for a minimum of 2 months or 60 days prior to council's consideration of an amending bylaw to your 2021 DC bylaw. And as I said, the purpose of today's meeting is to provide a review and then gain input or any types of comments from members of the public. So I kind of mentioned this already, but as described, Watson & Associates has been retained by the city to undertake a comprehensive DC background study with respect to your development charge bylaw and all associated services. Through that process, it came to light that an exemption, namely your non-residential piece, is proposed to be removed from your current bylaw, and that process has been undertaken, in coordination with staff over the past few months. And therefore, I'm here today just to present this interim step where a DC update study has been prepared to enable the scoped amendment to your current DC bylaw to be able to remove the discretionary exemption pertaining to industrial developments. So we're not touching anything else. There's no changes to definitions or any other rates or calculations. It's simply an administrative change on your current 2021 DC bylaw. And the proposed changes, as I said, have no impact to your current calculations, nor indexing or the quantity of the charge. In terms of the background, so the city has a current DC bylaw, whereas industrial developments are fully exempt from payments of DCs. And as we all know, with respect to any exemptions, those are foregone revenues that could have went into the city's reserve funds to be able to help pay for new capital infrastructure. So this revision then changes that effect so that we can start collecting for industrial in order to address any potential developments that may come to the city in the future. And just a bit of evidence and what we've done from a calculation standpoint, if you'll see on the slide on the screen, industrial DCs, which have been exempted since the life of the current bylaw, would have totaled to approximately $14.4 million worth of development charges since January 26, 2022. So that money has been exempted, and that money that could have been used for infrastructure, you would have to now top that up from other non-DC sources, such as taxes, water, wastewater rates, et cetera, to build those same pieces of infrastructure. And again, as I mentioned, the second bullet, they are funded typically from tax levies, water, wastewater rates, or other non-DC reserves. So the purpose of this this change in the meeting for today is to manage the impacts on taxpayer and ratepayers, whereby the proposed DC amendments are to remove that industrial DC exemption. Now, the following statutory policies are still in effect, regardless of you removing the industrial exemption from your DCs. So you do still have the mandatory exemptions where if a industrial development were to expand their square footage up to 50%, they are allotted an exemption to the charge. So it is a one-time exemption, so we do draw the line in the sand in your bylaw. That way you're not getting an industrial development that's 100,000 square feet, pulling a building permit of 50,000 going to 150 the following year, taking a 75,000 going to 225, so on and so on in perpetuity. So it is a one-time exemption. And then as well, you are still allowed to have the frozen DC rates through the site plan and zoning bylaw amendments, whereby, depending on your current bylaw or the proposed new one that'll be coming at the end of the year, that rate freeze will be right now 24 months, but eventually it will be reduced to an 18-month time horizon for developers. Now, how does this compare with other studies that you're currently undertaking? It's my understanding that you're also undertaking a separate community improvement plan that is providing a number of other incentives, namely a DC grant incentive, as well as a DC deferral on interest. I won't touch too much of that on my presentation. That is a separate matter. However, it is my understanding that that will be provided to Council in Q3 of this year, and the information to that should be with an accompanying report. However, keep in mind that these exemptions and managing these DC exemptions through this CIP program, rather than keeping it within a DC bylaw, allows you a little bit more fluidity and control, because as you can see, with changes to a DC bylaw, you're kind of stuck with having to do it over a period of 60 days, and even before that, there has to be a study that's undertaken. Whereas if you have a separate policy on the side, council has a little bit more flexibility to adjust those policies without having to go through the mandatory Development Charge Act 60-day waiting period. So that concludes my presentation. Really, right now, I'm open to any questions, whether from council or members of the public. But we are looking for consideration of the bylaw, I believe, in July 4th, as noted on the slide here. Thank you.
Okay, questions in the gallery, if anybody wants to speak on this? Anybody at all? Seeing once?
just on behalf of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce and a lot of people that we've heard of around the industrial development charge piece, we know there's a lot of resistance to the concept. And one of the things we have proposed that we are taking to the federal government in October, actually, is the idea that maybe there is a way for the federal government to become more involved with supporting municipalities whose ratepayer base may not be able to support the industrial growth that's needed in order for Canada to remain competitive, especially in this day and time when we are looking to do that. Just want to let you know that in support of both our members and ratepayers and the city and the role you play, we are trying to find an alternative, so it doesn't need to be your thing. Anyway, just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Before I call the meeting closed, anybody else in the audience? 1, 2, 3. Meeting closed. We'll move along the agenda now. I need approval of the minutes of council meeting held on June 9th, 2025, and June 2025. That's it. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Sue. Discussion from the minutes. All in favor? Carried. Deputations. Would like to welcome Akeel Ali, Senior Associate, and Aman Singh, Managing Partner of SLBC Incorporated, on the Asset Management Plan. Gentlemen?
Oh, that's good. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for your time today for us to discuss and share the findings of the Asset Management Plan project. As noted, my name is Akeel Ali, and I'm joined here with a senior partner from my firm, Aman Singh, who will be here to support any questions afterwards. So we don't have too much time today, but what we really wanted to do was just go through and recap the project background and overview, share some of the key findings, and then really talk about next steps for the town. So in terms of the project background and overview, the city has produced an asset management plan to meet the Phase 2 requirements for OREG 58817 for both the core and non-core infrastructure assets shown on the slide here. In terms of the OREG 58817 requirements, the city has met all previous requirements dating back to July 2019, and now really the last leg of the regulation is focused on the July 2025 requirements for proposed levels of services. This final milestone is a major milestone as it defines proposed service levels for all assets, and then also outlines how the city plans to balance both cost, risk, and community expectations. The report is broken down into 7 key chapters, which have been formulated based on OREG 58817 requirements, as well as industry best practice. This includes the state of infrastructure, levels of service, the asset management strategy, the financing strategy, as well as plan improvement and monitoring. The final chapter is a detailed look by service area of the aforementioned. So we'll now go through the key highlights for each section that we noted in the previous slide. The first one is the state of infrastructure, where this slide gives a high-level snapshot of the city's infrastructure based on asset value and condition of those assets. Overall, 84% of the city's assets are rated in very good, or fair condition, which reflects generally strong state of good repair across the infrastructure base. 13% of the assets are estimated to be in poor or very poor condition, and the city has put in place planned capital projects to address these assets in the near and short term. About 3% of the assets evaluated have unknown condition, which just means that there is a need for ongoing data collection and assessment at the city for those assets. Another major important point for the state of infrastructure is that a lot of progress has been made to collect some of the information that where there was gaps in the last plan, such as through the Building Condition Assessment Initiative and a variety of other collection initiatives. So next we'll talk about level of service. And if you recall in our last council presentation, we did a comprehensive look at the current and the proposed service levels for each service area. We also, as part of the level of service, did the community consultation, which was conducted to inform any input into the proposed service levels. And in general, the levels of services that we've identified inform activities and needs related to growth, upgrade, renewal, O&M, and financial sustainability. So for example, one service level we had was for parks that numbered the number of hectares of parkland per 1,000 residents, and that's being used to inform decisions around adding or removing any parkland. What you see on this slide here is a risk map, and how you essentially read the risk map is assets that fall within the red on the top right of the matrix are high or very high risk assets, and these are assets that are generally at or past their end of life. Assets at the bottom left, those are in the blue and green zone, and they're low or very low risk assets. These assets you may elect to delay the replacements or simply run them based on status quo. Overall, based on the very high risk assets, you can see about 4.7% of the portfolio falls in that bucket, and that mainly consists of things such as signalized intersections, the upper bridge, as well as buses. So for the renewal needs, the city is proposing an annual reinvestment of $45.9 million per year to support renewing, rehabilitating, and repairing the assets in order to meet the proposed levels of services set out within the asset management plan. The current levels of investment are adequate to meet the current 10-year needs, but they're inadequate to meet the whole of life needs, which account for any additional needs for infrastructure that occur outside of the 10-year window that we've analyzed. So for example, for roads, many needs may occur in year 30, for example, and they're not reflected within our 10-year forecast, and that whole of life need requirement of $80.1 million would reflect that. Next, for the future asset portfolio growth, the average annual growth in upgrade needs are estimated to be $38.8 million per year, which falls short of the funding of $10.9 million per year estimated at the city. Significant growth projects are anticipated, such as the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant, as well as new and expanded parks as part of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Without the increased funding, it's important to note that growth-driven service level demands and infrastructure pressure may not be met, and that might be potentially impacting things such as economic development and service delivery. Next, we'll jump to the forecasted operating needs. So the 10-year average operating needs for the city are forecasted to be $114.1 million per year, and that's closely aligned to the funding forecast of $111.8 million per year. In terms of the slide, all the dollar amounts are shown in 2025 dollars. Really, the key with the O&M forecast is as you increase the number of capital assets to your portfolio, this will require additional investment to maintain those assets over the long term through labor, material, fuel, etc. This slide summarizes the overall funding to needs for the city, and based on the proposed levels of service, the 10-year funding will only accommodate for about 28% of the growth needs, 100% of the renewal needs, and then 98% of the O&M needs. This leaves us with a 10-year average funding to needs to be about 85%, and leaving a $30.2 million per year shortfall. When compared to the whole of life shortfall, so again, this looks at needs outside of the 10-year window, the shortfall is significantly higher at $65.2 million. So overall, the gaps that we've seen exist across almost all municipalities exist. However, the outlook for the city of Belleville is quite positive in comparison to other municipalities as it relates to that overall gap. So in order to manage the gap that exists, many options exist. What you see on this slide here is just the proposed increases that the city is looking at based on the 10-year proposed level of service needs, as well as the whole of life cycle needs analyzed within the plan. There's about a 2.2% increase proposed for the tax-funded assets, no increase for water, a 4.6% increase for wastewater, and then a 0.5% increase per year for parking. This aligns with the approach taken with the 2024 asset management plan, which is important. And then in comparison, the increases on the tax-funded side is actually lower than what was proposed for the last iteration of the plan. So we won't go into the improvement plan into too much detail, but next steps for the city to move forward in their asset management journey is to really close data gaps and align some of the processes and procedures developed as part of the plan into the overall budgeting process for both the capital and operating budgets. For next steps, this plan meets the OREG 588-17 Phase 2 requirements, putting the city in compliance with that requirement. And as part of that legislation, the city must report annually the progress into achieving the proposed service levels by July 1st every year. And then legally, the asset management plan needs to be updated every 5 years. So that was it in terms of our presentation. I'd now like to open the floor for questions or comments.
Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Ali, and thank you, Mr. Singh, for the presentation. I just have a question regarding last year. We saw that, if you needed the slide, it was from the State of Local Infrastructure. Last year, you identified, or it was identified, water and wastewater were our highest risk category. And I was just curious to know if you had noticed much of a move in that needle for where you assessed it for this year. And if it does remain in that high risk category, I'd just like a little bit more information on how we can close that gap.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, for water and wastewater specifically, there were some improvements done from a data collection and reporting perspective. However, there wasn't a full-blown assessment done through something like a CCTV assessment, which would really move the dial on the outputs reported for this iteration of the plan.
And if I may add, just looking at a slide here of the $168 million of assets sitting in high risk, in other words, assets that are at or past their service life, it seems like about only $24 million of those assets are from water and wastewater.
Any more questions? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Ali, for the presentation. You said right off the top, 84% fair or better conditions for the city in our planning. What about, then you said 13% in our capital budget, poor or very poor conditions. What are those 13%?
So as we go through the report, and maybe I'll just pull the slide up, it does detail asset by asset what exactly is being considered in the poor, very poor condition category. But in general, and I'll just get to the slide so it's a little bit easier to to see visually. Oh. Yeah. In general, what you can see based on this slide is that there are water and wastewater assets, mainly water mains and sewer mains being captured into the very poor condition category, as well as some roads and bridges and culverts. That's mainly comprising the largest amount for the core assets. Then for the non-core assets, there are some transit parks and harbor assets that are also in the very poor category. What's important to note is that for some assets where there weren't any visual or physical inspections, mainly on the non-core side, we used age to assess the condition. So if something was at or past its useful life, we'd say it was in very poor condition.
Just a follow-up question. Mr. Ali, you mentioned under the 13% poor or very poor conditions, you mentioned parks. How do you decide if it's in poor condition? Just give us the example on how your consulting team would say that's in terrible condition.
Yeah, go ahead.
So through the chair to the councillor, typically when we're assessing condition, we're looking for the best quality data and information available. So we would first ask the organization or the service area for inspection reports or condition assessments that they've undertaken. If that's not available, we would then use age as a proxy for condition. So as part of this assessment, we don't actually undertake any assessment ourselves. We look for the service areas to provide us with data and information or estimates on the condition of the assets. In cases where the data quality does not exist, we would also ask them for expert opinion or judgment based on having operating and maintain those assets on a routine basis.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, gentlemen. I need a motion to send this report to DDF 2025-06, proposed level of service. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Henderson. All in favor? Carried. Okay, I need a resolution, the resolution of Council Rise and Go into Committee of Whole at 4:28 p.m. to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations, resolution with Councillor Thompson in the chair. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? Carried.
Resolution that council rise and go into committee of the whole at 4 something to hear and consider reports passing on recommendations with Councillor Thompson. Reports shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. 8A1 asset management plan, proposed level of service. DDF 2025-06 resolution that, as recommended by the Finance Committee, the Manager of Finance, Deputy Treasurer Report Number DDF 2025 Asset Management Plan, proposed level of service be approved. Councillor Kelly. Seconder. Councillor Chatton. Any questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I read the report under taxation, it says to balance these considerations and maintain debt capacity within limits, staff intend to propose an annual tax levy increase of 2.2%. So if we're approving the resolution today, are we setting this 2.2% tax levy year over year? And so that's my first question, and then the follow-up is if that proceeds now or in a future meeting and a decision of council, council's already pre-approved a number of items for 2026. I'd be interested to know the projected accumulated tax-supported increase thus far. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson?
Through the chair to Councillor Carr, the approval of this report would approve the asset management plan. It would not be a pre-budget approval. We will be evaluating all budgetary items at the 2026 operating budget, other than those that are pre-approved. If we take into consideration this item as well as some of the pre-approvals that have been done to date, it would be about 3.74% of a levy increase, not considering growth for the decisions that have been made so far.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 8A2, 2026 capital budget and 10-year capital planning guidelines, DDF 2025-07 resolution that, as recommended by the Finance Committee, the Manager of Finance Deputy Treasurer report number DDF 2025 to 2026 capital budget guidelines be approved. Can I have Councillor Chatton, Councillor Henry Miller? Any questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The end of page 2 refers to 70% of the respondents felt the existing key performance indicators on the city's public dashboard were sufficient. And then it goes on to say in the survey results that there was a number of additional performance measures that people were interested in. And a lot of them really come down to the allocation of tax dollars, operational efficiencies, use and effectiveness of safety services, and there's a number of other. Some that fall within the city purview, some that don't. For example, addressing homelessness and social challenges falls to Hastings County as the service manager designated by the province. However, through you to staff, is staff considering reviewing these and adding additional KPIs that the residents have identified?
Mr. Ferguson.
Through the chair to Councillor Carr, absolutely. We're taking into consideration the survey feedback for additional KPI generation, as well as some of the KPIs that are being developed, most reflective of the asset management plan that was just done. There's a number of level of services that were just approved by council. We'd be tracking those as well to report out to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Oops.
Sorry, thanks, Chair. Through you, I just want to mention thanks for the survey, and we had 705 people respond. I just wanted to add this in for those that may never had a chance to do the survey or read the report, something that I was interested to read. It says in the report, overall, most respondents supported keeping service levels as they are. However, some services, including doctor recruitment, long-term care, economic development, and road and sidewalk maintenance, stood out as areas residents also expressed interest in to increasing the service level. So that goes back to aging demographics, I think, growing population, and being on the Hastings County Long-Term Care Committee, I know the wait times are extreme for people that might need long-term care in our community, and doctor recruitment is a file that we continuously work on and have success with. So out of the 705 respondents, I was taking that information not lightly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 8A3, 2024 Building Faster Fund Summary. Refer to item 9.5, APS 2025. Resolution that pursuant to the 2024 Building Faster Fund Summary Report number APS 2025-30, that the 2025 capital budget be amended for the funding of the Avonlow sewage pumping system and conveyance system phase 1 to increase building faster fund utilization by $801,000 and reduce Ontario community infrastructure funding by $801,000. We need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Carr, Councillor Leonard Miller, any questions? Councillor Carr?
No questions, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to comment and just say thank you to staff for being so diligent in terms of tracking. As this program was initially announced, I had raised some concerns, and council passed some resolutions with respect to some of the metrics that the province was using. We clearly have the data now to prove that the province tracking is not accurate. They're suggesting that we've hit 96.9% of the 2024 target, when in fact staff who have to obviously go out and issue the permits and know when the foundations are put in, so actually physically see the construction occurring, we're hitting 157%. The disappointing part is because of this poor metrics by the province, the city is losing money. So in addition to that, which we and other municipalities warned the province about, that this metric was wrong and that it would sell us short, here yet again, we're short on this. The worrisome is the Building Faster Fund is only in place till 2026. Given the fact that the province extended strong mayor powers to, I think, pretty much every municipality on the map in Ontario at this point, but no funding attached to it, I can guarantee you that this funding stream is going to stop for us and others that were on the first front end of the strong mayor powers and the Building Faster Fund. So here right away we're losing money, and then all the housing legislation that we've talked about previously, we've lost and continue and forecast to lose millions of dollars. And as we look at infrastructure and things that we have to build for growth, they're asking us to do it, but they're tying our hands behind our back at the same time, which is disappointing. So I just want to point out, though, that staff are doing a fantastic job in improving this, and hopefully, perhaps maybe, we could advocate to the province to have another look at the values. I know that we had passed a motion previously for that. I don't even know if we got a response, or do we get the official acknowledgement of receipt and file it in the shredder type thing. But this is disappointing that we achieve it, and most importantly, the private sector, who actually does the building, is building at 157%, and we're not getting the credit for it. So it's unfortunate. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. 8A4, Queen Mary Affordable Housing Project, what we heard and next steps. PP 2025 resolution that pursuant to the Queen Mary Affordable Housing Project, what we heard and next steps, report number PP 202508, including attachment number 1, process and outcomes of public engagement report. And that pursuant to the Director of Corporate Services Clerks Council and Camera meeting July 6, 2019, item 3, staff be directed to release or propose a package to propose a portion of the land totaling approximately 3.23 acres in the area of 41 Octavia Street for the purpose of achieving an affordable rental housing development while maintaining approximately 1.47 acres of land for the community parkland. And they with outstanding resolution from report number CGS 2024-11, the subject land with the exception of the land that will be designated the parkland be disposed through a land sale. Can I move her in a second for that? Councillor Enright Miller. Councillor Kelly, Henderson, sorry. Any questions? Councillor Lisa Chatton.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm not sure who to ask this of, but going through the report, I did note, the 1,100 notices were delivered to properties within about 400 meters of the site, and that in terms of the public consultation that was held at Prince Charles Public School, 72 people attended. Now, that was the in-person feedback. I would just like to know, and I'm not sure who can answer this, but what amount of public consultation took place? Were there additional surveys that had gone out? Was there engagement that allowed for people to attend apart from Prince Charles to be heard, outside of obviously receiving emails. And my reason for asking this is I have a multitude of emails. I haven't been able to get back to everyone, but I can say this has definitely been a very hot topic. I'd just like to know how many respondents actually had input into the public consultation.
Director Ashton.
Okay. So, through this, through the reporting, 150 residents participated in the engagement activities. 74 residents provided their feedback via comment form and/or email, and 72 plus residents participated in the in-person public consultation center, including representatives of the neighborhood groups and families with children. And the majority indicated that they lived within 10-minute walk from the site, most of them within 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple questions. In reference to the proposal package that's outlined in the recommendation, can Council please be advised on the definition of affordable?
Director Ashton.
Okay, so it is the CMHC definition of affordable, and just give me a second here. So it's a minimum of 30% of the units would have to be 80% of the market rate, is the definition for CMHC of affordable.
Okay, thank you.
Development.
So this approach that's outlined in the staff report certainly strikes an important balance for the community. It provides for the development of a neighborhood park versus the current open space use, which is an improvement. Secondly, it allows for the development of affordable housing. The housing market, it continues to demonstrate runaway costs that are disconnected from reality of affordability facing our residents. We've even heard that in some of our BRE studies, where major manufacturers are concerned about the cost of housing for their employees. And so the housing market is certainly disconnected from reality, quite frankly. Municipally owned land is really the only way that we're going to achieve any kind of affordability, and the proposal put forward allows for that. We've seen, and I've pointed out here at this table, property speculation that's occurring. We've sold other property that has gone private and has been zoned and rezoned and sits and grows weeds, and there's no development, and it's a clear example of pure property speculation. So with that, the proposal package should include clear deliverables in terms of timeframes to build and a clause to return the lands to the city if development doesn't occur within a reasonable time frame, because otherwise we're just going to sell this and it's going to sit as speculation. So can staff, through you, Mr. Chair, can staff advise if these expectations and clauses have been contemplated in the proposal package to be released?
Director Ashton.
So the package hasn't been finalized, but we have had those discussions, and that was sort of running through scenarios, but we have every intention to ensure that it is built and those expectations are met. This was part of this site was sort of a key part of the Housing Accelerator Fund, so we have the goal of making sure that there's a deliverable in the end for it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and that's great to hear, Mr. Chair.
Mayor.
I've got a couple questions. On the 1.47 acres of land that we've committed to parkland, where's the parking? Is that included in the 1.47, or is that on a common space?
Director Ashton.
Okay, so this is conceptual right now. So I just got to flip to the conceptual plan here. The original conceptual site plan did sort of look at the parking that would be sort of to the adjacent, like between the school and the park. But what we heard when we did our consultation with potential developers was that they would want that site free and clear without public access for the parking. So we have had discussions about on-street parking for that park.
Okay. That's not, on-street parking is, yeah.
Or layaway sort of thing, yeah, a layaway sort of idea.
My next question, I guess, is in our master plan, Parks Master Plan, I believe in the report says that it's equivalent to about 2.47 acres that should be allotted to a park of that size. Does that make sense that I've read in the report? And we're allotting an acre short of that?
Yes, so the key part of this is the school site, because it is a potential potential place of cultural value to the city. We wanted to see if there was sort of interest in redeveloping that site. Council would, through releasing this to get proposals, if there wasn't anything suitable for that building, you know, that could potentially be added to the parkland in the future.
And I guess the question, we won't know that until those developers look at what they want to do with the school. I guess my question is, did we not, when this came to council last time, say that we were looking for around 2 acres for the park, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, so we could have moved forward with the proposed multi-story building. This is our recommendation right now to put forward to look at those 2 distinct sites without putting forward that, say, the school building get demolished or anything at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, through you, Councillor Thompson. Just back to Councillor Carr and the definition of affordability. Just a question. What's the duration of affordability? So in other words, you had said that 8% market rate. How long does the developer have to leave it at that?
Director Stevens, Ferguson, or Ashton, sorry.
So that's an interesting question. Everything about affordability is an interesting question, but I think it's important to know that that's a minimum. That's our expectation. Any sort of people looking to develop would have the opportunity to increase that minimum. We would also be sort of looking at putting it as a through sort of a facilities bylaw as one option to sort of ensure that this would remain affordable. The other option is CMHC does sometimes do construction financing, and then they have a term set out, which if I had sort of the opportunity to, I don't want to kind of guess the time, but there is a timeline where those units could remain affordable as well. So there's opportunity to piggy bank, and I think those details can be sort of vetted through the putting out this proposal long term.
Okay, just to confirm, what I think I'm hearing is we may have an avenue to ensure the affordability.
Yes, for a longer term.
For a longer term.
Yes.
Okay. And the second question I had, if I could, through you, Councillor Thompson, is there any, I don't see anything here that said that gives consideration to affordable housing for seniors. Is that a consideration that came up during this process?
We did look at the types of units, not necessarily for seniors, but like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. So we incorporated that. So I think that was initially when we had discussions. The types of units, we would be a little more specific of which we contacted County of Hastings to see what types of units or type or number of bedrooms per unit they were in, like people were in waiting lists, so that this could sort of address that waiting list in terms of types, but the actual age group could be seniors, could be younger families, but it was the actual need based on type of unit.
So our measuring stick is based on Hastings County and their wait times.
what their waiting list is
Right.
and what their, the types of units people are in line for.
Okay, because I do know there are many seniors out there that really are looking for affordable housing, and we all know there is no affordable housing at this time. So I don't know if there's a mechanism or a way to illustrate that, to highlight that maybe a certain percentage of these units should be geared in that direction. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but that's certainly something I would be interested in knowing about or being able to do something about.
So through the chair, we could, I'll take that comments and see if that is an opportunity through this process.
Thank you very much.
Any other question? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Not necessarily a question, but I might get one at the end of it, but just some thoughts on the report. Thanks to Catherine Tran for the report. In February of this year, we received 10.5 mil from the federal government, part of the Housing Accelerator Fund, and when you go through the fine print, it talks about building a partnership with municipalities, and Belleville's the player this time. And in the plan, it says develop city-owned land to create rental and affordable housing. That's part of the agreement we have with the federal government for that 10.5 million. We know we have a growing population, aging demographic. We need to increase supply. There's not a councillor around this table over the last 5-6 years that hasn't heard the biggest challenge we hear all the time is housing, housing, housing. I went by the area today on the way to the meeting, and I looked at the playground. I just envisioned this, if this is to go through, that playground would be beautiful for the kids in that neck of the woods. Updated equipment, probably 2025 kid stuff. So we have a real housing dilemma in our city, and this is speaking to it. I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Any other comments? All in favor? That's carried. 8A5, Land Maintenance Bylaw set fines, MBECS 2025-16 resolution, the Pursuant to the Manager of Bylaw Enforcement Report, number MBECS 2025-16, Land Maintenance Bylaw, set fines. Council approve the proposed set fines under the Provincial Offences Act for the Land Maintenance Bylaw. Can I have a mover and a second? Councillor Henderson and the Mayor. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Sorry.
Thank you, through you. I don't know who can speak to this or if anybody can speak to this or not, but the process going forward. So what is done prior to getting to a point where there is a fine? So what are the steps that occur? I'm sure many people would like to know that before they're actually issued a fine.
Can I have the manager come and speak on this matter? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Several things happen before. I mean, ideally, we receive a complaint about a property, an inspection takes place, we verify if there are any forms of violation, and then we try to reach out to the owner. If we're unsuccessful in a friendly reach out to the owner, we send something called an order to comply. If an order to comply is not complied with within the set amount of time, depending on the severity of it, we will issue something called a city action letter, which just says the order has lapsed, and then we will be proceeding with city action after another certain date. If it's not so severe and it's not expected to cost an absurd amount of money for somebody that would be considerably difficult in times like these, we would end up just proceeding with the cleanup with a contractor. But they are notified via registered mail.
And can I just add to that? I mean, repeat offenders. You know, we can drive by the same properties all the time. We know where they are. And they're repeat offenders. Yeah. So, I mean, it's same process.
So to be able to action anything under a bylaw, they have to be notified that there has been a violation that takes place. So while there could be repeat offenders that happen and we have to issue the order to comply, and let's say we do another cleanup and then another cleanup, that is the point where we reach something called the window of penalty, which would be either issuing a set fine or issuing a Part 3 charge, which is a summons to court.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Aggie and the group for working so hard on this bylaw. One of the items that was a bit contentious was the 1 meter property line for the naturalized garden, and we had a lot of discussion about that and possibly taking some of the measurement out. But staff worked very, very diligently and got all the background information for us to leave that in and make a decision for the people that were concerned about it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. 8A6, draft noise bylaw, MBECS 2025-17. Resolution that the pursuant to the manager a bylaw enforcement report number MBEC 2025-17, the draft noise bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. And mover and a seconder, Councillor Brown. Councillor, sorry, Chatton, sorry. I am way out today. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, and prior to consideration of such motion, members will request that the specific items be removed for consideration under such motion, as council shall consider such items individually. Resolution that council items 8A1 and 8AB be approved with exception of the consideration, and we'll start there. Mayor?
No, thank you.
Councillor Carr?
8B2, please.
Councillor Lenwright Miller?
No, thank you.
Councillor Sue?
No, thank you.
Councillor Henderson? Councillor Chatton?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown?
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly?
Mine's been pulled. Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the others except 8B2? Councillor Chatton? Councillor the Mayor? All in favor? That's carried. And we'll go back to 8B2, and it was pulled by Councillor Carr, and the single-family residential waste composition audit, DTOS 2025-08, single-family residential waste composition resolution that the Director of Transportation Corporate Services report number DTOS 2025-08 waste audit report be received for information. Councillor Carr moved it. We need a seconder for it. Councillor Reinhard Miller. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Little did you know that you would learn a lot through people's garbage, but certainly that has been the case here. 71% participation rate for recycling and 24% participation for green bin, which is quite low, quite honestly. The staff report notes that it will likely require a hiring of a staff member to oversee these initiatives to increase the diversion. And it looked like an annualized cost. I understand this is just preliminary, and there's a suggestion that it'll come to operating budget in 2026. But annualized cost of $80,000 plus additional $20,000 in marketing. My question is, staff are preparing that for 2026 operating. Why do we need to turn to hiring of staff, and has there been any internal review to determine whether existing staff, through efficiencies, could manage this type of endeavor?
Director Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Carr. Through the, and again, it'll be presented or brought forward at operating budget. You know, again, this increased education component of trying to promote more diversion would be an increased level of service. It is something we currently don't put a lot of, I would say, short of a better word, effort into right now on the education component of things. So if we do want to see more diversion into our landfill sites and better strategies around that, really education is one of the main components, and having residents, you know, as we know through our surveys and stuff like that, the more information we get in front of them, the more educated themselves are, and to make informed decisions, not for only for their own health, but the broader community.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. I got a couple more, just another question. and then a comment. With respect to the recycling, and I know there's great efforts that have been done to educate folks, but a lot of times what happens is the packaging, particularly not the cardboard or the simple aluminum cans, those are pretty straightforward. It's some of the other items that, you know, people will say, is this recyclable or is this garbage? Or what exactly, where should I put it? And I know that Quinte Waste Solutions has done excellent work in public education, but clearly we're still coming a little bit short. Is there any plans through you, Mr. Chair, to staff, through Circular Ontario to actually put the right packaging out? Well, obviously if you could reduce the packaging would be even better, but for packaging that goes out, clearly identify recycling. I know they put a little logo and a number, but I don't know too many people that have a reference sheet on their refrigerator or by their door that go, okay, what box do I put this in? When we talk about public education, it needs to be simple, straightforward. I don't need to think about it. It's this, it goes here. Rather than get into a technical sorting of the recycling. And then I think what happens is, let's face it, you know, garbage and recycling go out in the morning before you go to work. You don't have time to sit there and worry about which box is going where and all the rest of it. So I think for some people, they just go all one bag, sticker, away it goes. Is Circular Ontario talking, or is there any talk of improving the type of symbols and identifiers for the type of recycling that should be occurring?
Director Reid. Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Carr. You know, with the shift in to producer responsibility, you know, and at the end of the day, the profit margins for the industry or the industrial partners who are making the packaging obviously is being impacted because now they're paying for it. I think there are some discussions taking place broader around that and making sure it's more streamlined. And I definitely will be one of our user groups or stakeholder group meetings. We'll be bringing that up to help communicate it back. There certainly is some gaps in communication from us as the end, you know, user, so to speak, and from the producers, because again, CMO is kind of in the middle, and there have been some, I won't say lack of better words, communication between the two groups and getting it back, and not necessarily answering all of our questions. So this is definitely something I will be bringing back, and again, this audit did highlight a lot of issues we need to work on.
Mr. Chair, because thank you for that. I don't think the producers will pay. It'll be the customer at the end of the day. You know, when you buy an electronic device now, there's a electronic fund that goes with it. You know, certainly somewhere built in the price when you buy a new TV, you'll be paying for the box that it comes in. But the issue then becomes, what do we do with it when it goes out to the curb, so to speak? I know that the recycling portion is a separate company, but I'm always concerned about landfill. Certainly for the landfill at the Mudcat in Thurlow, there's only so much life there, and once that's filled, it's filled. So the more we can recycle, the more we can compost, the better. In terms of marketing, I think too, we talk a lot about what the city's disposable costs are, and we talk in big numbers of how many years we have left on the landfill and the post-closure costs that go with it. But I think really when marketing comes down to it, it has to be simple. I know for our household, you know, I wasn't warm to the idea, self-disclosure, to the green bin, but my wife really said you pushed it, and so we do that. I was amazed to see the difference in waste, and anytime I don't have to buy a bag tag, I'm pretty excited about that. So that tells me that I'm saving money. Same with the recycling aspect. The more you divert out there, which we've always done, the less you pay. So I think it's important that we really kind of pare down to, if we don't do this diversion, A, our landfill fills up. This is the cost to you, individual property taxpayer. And then two is that if you can increase your diversion and it doesn't go to the landfill, you could possibly save X number of dollars on bag tags. And I know, you know, folks will say, and I've seen it many times, just put the bag tag or just put garbage on our taxes. But here, this is where it should be user pay, because if you generate less, why should I be paying for somebody else's garbage? So I think it's a win-win, but I think as far as marketing, it has to go down to the individual wallet, if you will, to say, this is what you're going to save in terms of bag tag fees. This is what you're going to save if we run into difficulties with a landfill we can no longer use, and we're transporting our garbage further geographically. It's going to cost you on your bill here. So I think there's certainly some messaging that needs to be honed down to the individual homeowner to look at what kind of savings, in addition to the environmental considerations that are there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks to Mr. Reid, and I think it was Mr. Baird with the report. Good reading over the weekend. Now, Mr. Reid, as Councillor Carr touched on, most of the food waste produced by residents was disposed in the garbage stream. And I had this conversation with Councillor Carr earlier this afternoon. What is the challenge to get more in our city to use the green bin? I think that would be the goal of all of us.
Director Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Kelly. You know, the audit did highlight some opportunities for us to look at moving forward, primarily around, you know, education, marketing, and again, as Councillor Carr highlighted, you know, again, maybe how it can impact the taxpayers moving forward. So, you know, we're going to have to look at a comprehensive review of our internal capacity and look at ways where we can mitigate that. I mean, the numbers are somewhat staggering. You know, only 24% of individual residents are using the green bin program, whereas 71% are recycling. So, you know, 71% of our residents have you know, a mindful view around the environment and being conservative and so forth. But we need to work more on that education and piece of it.
Thank you. And also in the report, we found that Hartwood Drive had the least amount of wasted food in the garbage stream. Congratulations to the residents there. And 3rd Street had the least amount of unavoidable food waste in the garbage stream. So congratulations to the residents on 3rd Street. And finally, for those listening to this or watching on YouTube, Mr. Reid, can you kind of explain how you got these figures and how you know what's going to a green bin, what's going in recycling? Like, give us the science on the report, because it's rather interesting.
Director Reid.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Kelly. Essentially, the group physically opened bags of garbage and waste on a table at our Ritz Road facility and went through it piece by piece.
Any other questions? Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. More of a comment. Just on the Green Task Force, we did a test pilot at a multi-res building because most multi-res buildings do not have facilities where they can use green bins or compost. And there are things on the market that we can use, and our test was very successful. It's a little countertop device, and I'm thinking, all I can think of is food saver, but that's not the correct term for it. But it's a composter that you can put. It looks like a coffee maker, a little bit bigger, maybe a bread maker. And it was very successful, and it's geared for people that don't have, you know, the beauty of going out and composting. And so there are things on the market that we could maybe start to, you know, get out there, get the word out there. And so I just wanted to share that there's things coming. So thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Information items, there's only one. 8C1 be received, and it is notification of purchases May 2025. Notification of purchases provided to Council May 2025 for June 23, 2025 Council meeting. We need a mover and a seconder for it. The Mayor and Councillor Chatton, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. And now, we rise and report at 5:09. Motion to rise and report. Councillor Carr, Councillor Chatton, thank you very much, and I'm going to be excused if I may for the day.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I hope you're feeling better. Bylaws. I need a motion to resolution that bylaw numbers 2025-112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, and 120 be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Ray Miller, seconded by Councillor Chatton. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. New business. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items. As we start to reference 2026, I'd request a staff report, including the necessary budget justification detail for Council's consideration. So I'm hoping this bypasses any internal review for the 2026 capital budget as it relates to a 3x3 multi-use court, lighting, and other envisioned upgrades for the continued development of Bird Park in the Settlers Ridge subdivision, as well as the construction of a small playground structure and amenities for the Heritage Park subdivision. The second item that I wanted to speak on is that myself, and I talked to a couple of colleagues today, we learned that in the news, actually, we learned that the Bridge Integrated Care Hub occupancy is now anticipated for February 2026. I know that's a little bit disappointing considering the warming center is to open up in December. So I'd hope that the consortium of community agencies that are involved in Hastings County start looking today for a solution for that, because that resolution needs to be had. But having said that, the city supported this endeavor and through council's decisions allocated some funding. And so I was wondering, and I asked a question through you to the CEO, if he could advise council when a project page will be available on the city's website to inform the public on timely progress and updates to this project. Thank you.
To the CEO.
Through the chair to council, this is a unique one, the bridge. I'll talk to staff and departments about that, simply because it's not, we have a project manager assigned to it, but it's not our project. Yes, it's city funded, but it is a unique project. Director Ashton, do you have any comments on it?
Yes, so through the Housing Accelerator Fund, we we're undertaking an engagement site called Granicus. It was called something formerly. It's been ownership changes, but it's basically a project management page, and I think 10 to 12 projects initially for a soft launch will occur. And I just saw an email of some background information being sent, and so we're hopeful that that will be one of the first 12, and it'll sort of give information that residents can see. But eventually at that Granicus platform will sort of provide all details of all our sort of city-initiated projects, so it is underway.
Okay, any other new business? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'll be asking for a staff report too. We'll get there. A few months ago, Councillor Enright Miller and myself were with the Accessibility Committee down at Westwicks Park, and we were just working on parking and some other issues that Chair Enright Miller does for the Accessibility Committee. And then we just started talking about health. If something were to happen at a very busy place in our city on many days throughout the year. And then a few weeks later, I was at Market Square, and I ran into Elizabeth Reed. Elizabeth Reed is with the City of Belleville, retired nurse for, I think, 40-plus years at Belleville General Hospital, and she sent me a letter. She's involved with the District 15. She's chair of the Ontario Lawn Bowling Association. She's a retired RN, and District 15 includes Belleville, Campbellford, Kingston, and the Trenton Lawn Bowling Club. And her ask was that they would like to have at the Hillcrest Community Hall an automated external defibrillator, AED, to be kept in the hall. The age group for those in lawn bowling in Belleville, anywhere from 10 years to 92 years old. And I spoke to Belleville Fire Chief Dan Smith, and Dan said that he'd be willing to help out the Belleville Lawn Club, who bowls there 5 times a week. Very busy place, a lot of people involved there. And they got a provincial championship coming up in August, and thanks to Liz for that. So I continued the conversation with Councillor Enright Miller, and every year, sudden cardiac arrest claims thousands of lives in Canada. This is life-threatening emergency, can strike anyone at any time, regardless of age or health condition. Immediate intervention with the automated external defibrillator can be the difference between life and death. Every year, 50,000 Canadians experience out-of-hospital cardiac arrests, 7,000 here in Ontario. Over the weekend, I reached out to Chief Carl Bowker of Hastings County EMS. I asked him the question, what kind of numbers are we dealing with cardiac arrest in our neck of the woods? In Hastings, Prince Edward last year, 260 cardiac arrest calls, 50 of those were in Belleville. And it's imperative that an individual that's going through a health crisis has that support. So in fact, people have a 75% chance of survival with this device. So my ask to the city is, how many defibrillators do we have in the city of Belleville and the locations? I'm hoping that we can get new technology at Westwick's Park, Riverside Park, high traffic events that host high traffic events for our city, maybe some soccer fields and many other spots that might host social gatherings for family. Again, I'll come back to it, we're an aging and growing population. The stats indicate it's not about age or how good a health you're in to have cardiac arrest. So I'm hoping that this can be a positive thing for our city, keeping everybody safe. We saw the numbers here, and I'd like to get a staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and the CAO will direct that to staff. Any other new business? Seeing none, notice of motions. Councillor Sue?
Thank you, His Worship. If I may, could I give these papers out?
Yes.
Thank you. I acknowledge I brought a motion before council for EV charging stations that failed. I also acknowledge that I believe it failed because of my lack of understanding of the process for motions. If this motion fails again, EV charging station cannot be brought back for 1 year to this council. Therefore, I'm hoping council will allow reconsideration of the motion with some modifications. At this time, I would like to speak about the EV charging station project that is both forward-thinking and vital.
Councillor Sue, there's no discussion on a notice of motion. You're just making notice that your motion and that discussion will take place at the next council meeting.
Okay, so I do not have to.
No, you don't. You're done. Everything's good. So your notice of motion will be on our July council meeting, and then there'll be discussion then.
Thank you.
And hopefully pass for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Announcements. Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Canada Day celebrations, we would like to extend an invitation to join us at Zwicks Park on Tuesday, July the 1st, for Belleville's annual Canada Day celebration. Zwicks Park festivities, 9:30 a.m., Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast under the Tom Gavey Pavilion. 11 a.m. are free shows and attractions, including a hula hoop fun zone, stilt walkers, and hot diggity dog show. There's going to be carriage rides and face painting, balloon twisting, and inflatable villages, and more. 11 a.m. musical performances at the Lions Pavilion, and food for this year's event will feature various vendors, including some of the favorite multicultural vendors that we see every year. Pop-ups will also be open all day, so hopefully everybody will be able to get out and come down and celebrate with us.
Thank you, Councillor Chatton. Any other announcements? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just a couple tonight. Just want to give a shout out to the downtown district. What a kickoff to the summer solstice this past Friday. Downtown, thousands were there. Great job by the downtown district and all the volunteers that made that work. Also, too, this past Saturday was National Indigenous Peoples Day. The 94 calls to action. Just a little update in Canada that came out in 2015. 94 calls to action, 13 are completed. This past Saturday in Deserano with National Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you to the community for being so welcoming. My daughter and I really enjoyed the music, the food, the culture, the energy. So thanks to everybody who are neighbors to the east.
Anybody else? Councilor Sue?
Thank you, His Worship. I was privileged to present at the Maurice Rollins Youth Leadership Award ceremony hosted by Quinte Volunteer and Information, Hastings and Prince Edward at the Belleville Police Station. It was an inspiring event recognizing 4 outstanding young volunteers. Their names are McKenna Lowry, Jessica Williams, Molly Chisholm, and Shay Davison, who were nominated by their schools as exemplary youth leaders. Joined by dignitaries, board members, families, and staff, we celebrated their achievement with awards totaling $6,000 and certificates and a copy of Maurice Rollins' book. I was honored to present on behalf of His Worship and the City of Belleville alongside MPP Tyler Alsop. A truly special day recognizing the impact these young leaders have made and excited for what they will do next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sue. Anybody else? Seeing none, I need a motion to go in camera for acquisition or disposition of land. If I could get that moved by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Enright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Sue, Councillor Kelly, all in favor? Confirmatory bylaw. I need a motion to pass confirmatory bylaw 23 June 25th. Moved by Councillor Sue, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor, carried. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Sue, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor, carried. Thank you, staff.